Sewing an Italian placket. Italian placket is similar to a two-piece placket. The only difference is that the two pieces of Italian placket are of the same width. You would find Italian placket commonly used on sleeve openings of men's shirts, in half-opened shirts or kurtas. Objective: at the end of this class, you will be able to stitch an Italian placket. Let us first familiarize with the tools and materials that you would need to stitch an Italian placket. You would need cotton fabric,
patterns,
square, tailor's chalk, pins, shears, a pair of small scissors, contrasting thread, iron box, measuring tape, and a sewing machine. Now let's watch how to stitch an Italian placket on a sample piece of fabric. Step 1. Measure, mark, and cut out required sample fabric pieces. Measure and mark 8 inches by 8 inches squares on a single layer of cotton fabric with the help of a
patterns,
square, measuring tape, and a tailor's chalk. This will be the outer piece. Use shears and cut the marked square. For the facing pieces, draw a 6 inches by 1.5 inch square on a double layer of a different color fabric. Use shears to cut these squares you just marked. Please note, we are using a different color fabric for the facing piece for demonstration purposes only, otherwise we would use the same fabric as the outer piece. Step 2. Mark lines on fabric and cut. Mark a line in the center on the wrong side of the outer square. Also mark a 4-inch long line, a half-inch parallel to the center line and on the left side of the center line. Cut along the line. At the peak, clip 1/4 inch diagonally down on both sides. Step 3. Position the facing strips and pin. Turn sample piece to the right side. Set both the facing strips on either side of the cut edges and pin. Step 4. Stitch up to diagonal clips. Start stitching with the reverse stitch to prevent the seam from opening. Stitch up to the diagonal clips and fix with reverse stitch 1/4 inch away from the edge. Step 5. Iron the fabric pieces. Turn and iron the opposite edge of the left facings ½ inch to the wrong side of the fabric. Turn and iron the right facing along the seam to the wrong side of the sample. Step 6. Pin the facing and stitch. Fix the facing with pins and stitch it down up to the same length of the opening. Remove the pins. Step 7. Iron the left facing and fix with pins. Now turn and iron the left facing to the wrong side and fix it with pins. Step 8. Stitch the facing. Stitch the facing down 1/4 inch away from the raw edge up to the same length of the opening on the wrong side of the fabric. Remove the pins. Step 9. Fold the sample piece and form a pleat. Fold sample piece on the right side, leaving 1/4 inch to the opening and pin along the fold. Now move the right placket over the left placket by forming a pleat. Step 10. Lock the pleat. Lock the pleat from the right side of the fabric by stitching a square shape over the portion of the cut edge. Remove pins as you sew. When you finish stitching, snip the threads with small scissors. Step 11. Iron the placket. Iron the placket. With that, we come to the end of this class. Let's recall what we have learned. You learned how to stitch an Italian placket. Let's review its basic steps. Step 1. Measure, mark, and cut out required sample fabric pieces. Step 2. Mark lines on fabric and cut. Step 3. Position the facing strips and pin. Step 4. Stitch up to diagonal clips. Step 5. Iron the fabric pieces. Step 6. Pin the facing and stitch. Step 7. Iron the left facing and fix with pins. Step 8. Stitch the facing. Step 9. Fold the sample piece and form a pleat. Step 10. Lock the pleat. Step 11. Iron the placket. You have now learned how to stitch an Italian placket. Take our next class to learn how to stitch a two-piece placket.